right, welcome everybody to Leslie's Lowdown on Live. Last week we had a lot of fun. This week I'm going to get a little more serious, and we're going to have a really important conversation today that I think a lot of women need to hear, and or even the moms, the daughters, the wives. Just this is such an important conversation. So with that said, I want to introduce to you my incredible guest today. We've got Julie Delaney. She's been here for years and part of our community, wife, mom of two grown boys now, worked in public relations. You have worked in the media field, and then now you're the CEO for an American YouTuber and content creator, which is a whole different conversation. I can't wait to get into that one. And then Dr. Kai Morimoto, you're a plastic surgeon. You've got a passion for health and wellness, though. So it's not just about the aesthetics, it's about the overall thing. And you're so passionate about educating yourself on all that's new and keeping up with everything that keeps people healthy and down that right path. So thank you guys both so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
This is great. I'm going to start out with a couple of statistics because 69 to 84% of women at one point or another are unhappy with their bodies. That's a high percentage.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all experienced that, right?
Yeah.
When you're comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah, and I think it would be even higher.
I was kind of surprised. I thought it would be a little bit higher too, Kai. I think that the comparison starts so early, and we were talking about this just a few minutes ago, that, we grow up with Barbie, so we've got this little plastic doll with this perfect figure, and we're looking at that thinking, oh, that's what we need to be. And then magazine covers, and we don't factor in, especially when we're so young, that there's so much retouching that's going on. And we're thinking, oh, that we've got to look like that. And it really is just unrealistic and unattainable.
Right. But that's what people see.
Yes.
And that's what they want to be. And
it's
so
not
true.
Reality. It is not reality at all. Today, we're going to talk about BII, which is new to me. And I was telling you guys a few minutes ago, I went down a rabbit hole last night because we started talking about this, and we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Actually, we all have. What a small world, right? But I've watched some of your health issues with scleroderma and just through the years. But you're so candid at talking about BI, which is breast implant illness.
Yes. Yeah.
And what you've been through and what your journey has been like. So I wanted to start with you, Julie, and just talk about when did you decide to get breast implants?
Well, it starts when I was in puberty, actually, and my mom was well endowed, and it was like I was 12 or 13, and I thought, okay, they're going to come in at some point, right? And then I was 15, 16, and still nothing happening up top, and so I always knew that I just didn't feel as feminine as I wanted to. So I made the decision to have implants put in after I'd had my second child. So I knew we were done having kids, and if I was going to make the investment, I wanted, to not have that area then messed with because I had more kids. And so I was about 26 when I had them put in, and I was thrilled. Like, having them put in was the easiest thing I've ever done. I mean, it was probably easier than going to the dentist and having my teeth cleaned. It was a really easy surgery, kind of.
I was going to say, but kind of. But it was cosmetic as opposed to medical. A lot of people have to for medical as well if they've had a mastectomy. What kind of breast implants did you get?
Yeah, and that's what makes, like, if we're jumping forward and then jumping back in my story, that's what makes it so frustrating, is that I thought I was doing all the right things, right? So I waited till I was done having kids. There was the whole Connie Chung controversy with the silicone implants right before, and those had been taken off the market and they had just been put back on. But I thought, oh, I'm going to do the responsible thing and get saline implants. And, so if they leaked, I'm totally fine. And I wasn't fine. I wasn't.
How soon after you got the implants were you feeling any kind of symptoms?
Yeah. So I think my story, I want to preface it by saying, I think my story kind of falls on the extreme end. However, I want Kai to speak to, all of the women that she sees. But within 24 hours. So what happened is that within 24 hours, I had a head to toe rash, and the plastic surgeon, Kai did not put my implants in. Another plastic surgeon in town that has retired put them in. And he did a beautiful job and was really a great surgeon. But within 24 hours, I had a rash head to toe. And when I called back to the surgeon's office, they said, "Oh, you're just having a reaction to the anesthesia cocktail, because if you were having an allergic reaction to the implants, it would just be localized in that area." Well, that sounded good to me. I mean, what do I know? So that rash from head to toe lasted for 12 weeks. And
Yeah.
I knew at that point something wasn't right. Like my body was not happy with these foreign objects in there.
And I'm thinking it's like the body's intelligence, right? That it's saying there's something foreign in here. Get out, get out.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And yeah, most people don't react as quickly as you do, but I have had some where it's overnight, just like you.
Yeah.
And it might be vision changes, rashes, other things, but sometimes it can take years. You just going along with your life and everything's great, and then you
Boom.
start having issues, and they kind of just stack up one on another. And one day you just realize, for someone, you say, a lot of women, I'd say 99% of my patients are super healthy women that know they shouldn't feel so cruddy.
Mm-hmm.
And it just adds up over time until one day they realize what's going on with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you were saying, Julie. It's
Yeah.
like you were, you knew you shouldn't be feeling so crummy. 12 weeks with painful rash.
And that was one of my symptoms moving forward for the next 16 years was these blistering rashes. But unlike a topical rash, like if you put a lotion on and it starts right away, it starts from inside my body. So I can feel the rash burning days before it would ever become visible to the eye. And by the time it would get to the surface, it was gross. It was blistering. It was awful. And I could get them anywhere on my body at any time.
So after 12 weeks, when the rash finally went away,
Yeah.
what was your mindset at that point?
Well, I was thinking, apparently my body doesn't like general anesthesia. We're so trusting of the medical professionals in our life, and we should be, because they're well trained, but they're also humans, and they're also only equipped with the information that they've been trained on. And I have found through this journey, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, that some physicians don't care to learn new things. And some physicians are all about staying on top of what's happening in the research and all of that. So after the 12 weeks, I was living my best life. I had these new perky boobs, and I was finally filling out swimsuit tops, and I was finally filling out bras, and my shirts were hanging great, and I loved it. And that bliss lasted probably 2.5 years, to Kai's point. My real symptoms and my health decline took about 2.5 years to start.
And then what did you start to see?
Well, it was awful. And because with breast implant illness, what I found, and talking to hundreds of women who have suffered from it as well, is that it's little things that as women we just don't pay attention to. Women, we're such caregivers of others, but we don't care for ourselves. So like Kai said, it was rashes, it was brain fog, it was joint issues. And then for me, a lot of organ involvement. So it took 7 years of suffering from what we thought were kidney infections. I would go to the doctor and I would give a urine sample and it looked like a blood sample. And then they'd put me on high-dose antibiotics while they were sending ththings out for culture, and then would come back and they'd go, yeah, you don't have an infection. I wonder why you're peeing blood. Or colon issues. It ruined my life in a very extreme way. And finally, I had a friend's husband who was a very well-renowned doctor in the area say, give me all your medical records. We need to get to the bottom of this. And he ran the right tests to get me diagnosed with a systemic sclerosis version of scleroderma. And then I was connected with a rheumatologist in town who I love, who was able to stabilize my health for my health didn't get better, but it stabilized for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And then it went off a cliff again. And it went off a cliff really bad.
Is that something that you see quite often, Kai, in your practice when you're talking to women about breast implant illness?
Yeah, a lot of times, kind of like with Julie, you know, they'll the symptoms, they just kind of, they're easy to rationalize away because
Right.
they just sneak up on you. But then you go and get testing, and then most women are, they say all the tests are negative. You know, they'll be having different lab works done, and it's like negative, negative, there's nothing wrong with you. And then they're like, but there is something wrong, and no one can give them an answer.
Because you can feel it, but you can't really put, obviously, a name to it
Yeah.
as to exactly what it is. And it seems so broad, meaning autoimmune disease does seem to have a broad span of, things that go along with it. So you're talking about brain fog and then
Joint pain.
pain,
And a lot of things,
hair loss.
it's easy to rationalize away.
Yes.
Right, like hair loss. Maybe I brushed my hair, too hard, or I should have got so many perms when I was younger, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm going through menopause.
Exactly. I was going to say menopause or your hormones are off.
Right. And so women just tend to keep making, rationalizing, I'm fine, this is normal, until one day they just realize this is not normal. I should not feel this awful.
Yeah. And so with that said, you fell off a cliff is what you were
Yeah.
saying.
Well, and the one thing is there isn't a test. There's not a lab test for breast implant illness. It is a collection of symptoms and you being intuitive with your body, just like Kai said, that this isn't right. Like, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, I, take care of my body. Why do I feel so awful? And so for me, it happened in January of 2022 that my brain swelled and I was having trouble talking. Not like I couldn't talk, but it was like I was having trouble finding the words. I was having trouble seeing. The whole left side of my body swelled to the point where I couldn't get my legs in pants, and I had to have an interventional radiologist do an ultrasound guided aspiration and remove 6 vials of fluid out of my left knee. And everyone said, well, your test results are normal. They're normal. There's
That's
nothing
horrifying.
wrong. Now, granted, all of that was happening under the guidance of my rheumatologist, who was saying, yeah, your labs are just the same. I mean, my ANA antibody marker was positive, and we knew I had scleroderma, but there wasn't anything to indicate why I was getting so sick. And so I had a friend, and I was desperate, just desperate. It makes me kind of choke up because it's stupid now, but I was desperate to figure out what was wrong with me. And just by happenstance, a friend of mine sent me a documentary called Explant, and it was produced, and it was following a gal who was very well known in LA about getting her implants out. And I sat in my bed and watched it and just sobbed. And it was all I could do, not to get up and just carve them out in my kitchen at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And even then, going to my rheumatologist, so I made the decision that night that I was going to have a Hail Mary and I was going to get these things out. And because it was me, I was like, everything I was watching on the screen was me. And I started calling around to plastic surgeons, some here in town and some in Dallas, because we have friends in Dallas, and it was going to be a big surgery. So I knew I needed to go somewhere where I could have care and not disrupt our whole lives. I mean, my husband was going to come, but maybe not for a month. And no one believed me. Everyone was like, are you sure? I even had one plastic surgeon who was a female say, have you talked to your husband about how he feels about you getting these out? And my brain is swelling and I can't walk, and it's impeding my ability to be a mom and do my job and be a wife. And I was like, ugh. So finally, Kai was actually my last consult because she's so good. She's very hard to get into. She's got a waiting list. And it was like a breath of fresh air when I walked into her office, because one of the first things they had me do was fill out a checklist of all the things that could be BII symptoms. And I knew I had found the right place.
You knew you found that place that was
Yes.
going to take care of you. And listening to you, I get emotional because I think I've not felt well before and not had anybody able to figure out what's wrong,
Yeah.
what's going on. So yours is an extreme. You had to almost feel, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, a little bit crazy because
Oh.
I felt that way before. Have you felt that way before where
Yeah.
it's just like, I have all this stuff going on and everybody's telling me there's nothing wrong.
Right.
What's wrong? And then to finally see something, number one, that says, oh, somebody else is going through that. But then
Yeah.
you ping pong back to, plastic surgeon after plastic surgeon not believing or
Yeah.
hearing you. To find Kai had to be such a relief.
Oh my gosh. Well, and luckily, I had a relationship with Kai. Well, not a direct relationship, an indirect relationship with Kai through my husband growing up in town and having helped her with some real estate needs, and now having a long-term friendship with her now husband, who we love, and so it just felt like somebody actually believed me and wasn't worried about the aesthetic going away. Like Kai was invested in making sure my health rebounded, and I had plastic surgeons. I even had, so I have to take a step back. When I made the date, when we had the surgery date with Kai, it was out like, I don't know, I think I booked out like a month or month and a half from the
Yeah, it was
consult day.
Yeah, we got you in
Pretty
quickly, I
quick.
think.
You did. But in that month, I was determined to run every possible test. We paid thousands of dollars to have every possible test, everything done, because I wanted a baseline of before so that I could compare, 3 months, 6 months, a year out and see how everything in my body looked and how my body was reacting factually. So I could start saying to people, I wasn't crazy. This really impacted my health. And I even had, he now has since been removed from the practice, not because of me, but maybe a pattern of things. But I had somebody at my gynecologist's office. It was doing a test before I had the surgery. And he said the same thing. Well, I mean, I don't think that the two are connected. I mean, have you talked to your husband about how he feels about you getting them out? And it's that general consensus in our world that as women, we have to look a certain way and be a certain way versus just be as healthy as you can be, no matter what that looks
And
like.
somehow your husband is going to be disappointed if you don't have those. That's what
Right.
makes you special.
Nobody wants an unhealthy
Right.
wife.
Well, I
No.
said, my husband could care less about my chest. He'd like his wife back.
Right.
He'd like to stop paying thousands of dollars in medical bills because I'm in the hospital or I'm, the amount of hospital stays I've had because my colon was freaking out or my kidneys were freaking out or my esophagus was closing in on itself because of scar tissue, because of complications from the scleroderma. I mean, my husband wanted his wife back. My
Yeah.
kids wanted their mom back. They could care less about what my chest looks like. I mean, for gosh sakes, the padded bra technology saw me coming and said, hey, we're here to rescue you.
We got you. Thank God for those padded bras. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want the two of you to kind of walk through then the time, because it had to be emotional.
Yeah.
First of all, you've got an appointment with a doctor who cares, who gets
Yes.
it, who's looking at you overall and your health and your
Yeah.
well-being. So you've got a plan in place.
Yeah.
Take it from there.
Well, so the one great thing about a surgeon that believes you is that there are a whole bunch of things put into place. And so with Kai, we made the appointment. She did the consultation. We talked it through because, well, let's be honest. If I was going to have them out, I also wanted my chest was going to be flat, I wanted a flat stomach too. So,
Makes sense to me.
if I would be flat, let's just be flat all the way down the front. So, so I had a bigger surgery done where she did a full en bloc explant, and I'll let you explain that. And then did some muscle repair after having kids, and then a tummy tuck. So it was a big surgery. But the one thing I had asked Kai before we went into surgery is I said, my body's just not healthy. So if we get into surgery, do the boobs first. Get those out. And if for any reason I'm showing signs of not being able to continue on with surgery, forego the stomach. Like, I'm coming to you because I want these out. But one of the things that I did love is the full end block explant, which is important. So do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah. So what that is when you put an implant in your body knows there's something foreign there, and so it wants to protect you from the foreign thing if it's going to live there. So it creates a scar tissue wall around the implant. And so there's no research on like the, whether you should take the capsule, scar tissue capsule or not. But most patients want, the implant as well as any tissue that was directly in contact with it out. And so when you do an M block, you take the capsule and the implant out in one piece rather than two separate things, or maybe just taking the implant out alone and leaving the capsule behind. So it's a lot. It's super easy just to take an implant out, but
Right.
when you take that scar tissue, there's a lot of risks that go along with it.
It seems invasive. Like
Yeah.
it's a pretty serious surgery.
There's a lot more. Usually if the implants are below the muscle, they're going to be stuck to the underside of your muscles and then also to the surface of your ribs. And so it's just there's
Yeah.
a little more discomfort there.
And I would think too that with somebody with Julie's symptoms, and I'm sure you've had many other women with the same ones, you want to be able to get everything that you can.
Yeah. And I have had some patients who have come to me who maybe they had only part of the capsule taken out, or maybe just their implants taken out, and they feel somewhat better, but not 100%. And we've gone back in and taken out the remaining capsule, and that's helped.
Yeah, it was a non-negotiable for me because I wanted that capsule out. I wanted it sent to pathology. I wanted to be as educated about every step of this process and be the best healthcare advocate I could be for myself, because there was no one out there doing that for me at that moment in
Right.
time. So I really needed that out, and it was like a security blanket for me to know that that was coming out with the implant.
And one of the bigger, I think, conversations too is that we've come a long way as far as breast augmentation, right? Because we can use fat from other parts of our body
Right.
to do that reconstructive surgery.
Yeah. You can do fat grafting. I don't do a lot of that. It's I don't know. It's not at a point yet where you have like a high, like 100% survival of the fat. So I usually have others that have more experience in that do that. But even implants have changed a lot too.
And I had quite a few surgeons that I talked to in this process really push me, since I was going to have, all this fat taken off of my tummy, to have that, transplanted and do a fat transfer into my breast. But there was a friend of mine who had that done, and her tissue became necrotic in her breast. So here she'd gone to all this effort to, get her implants out. And then she having, a profile, not be flat chested, was really important to her. And so that just made perfect sense. Well, she ended up having to go back in and have surgery, and she was so ill because all of that fat was infected and it was necrotic. And so now you're, back to square one. So I agree with Kai. Like, if there had been more research about the success rate of it. The other thing is, you can get lumpy boobs, and I was like, I just rather have.
You're like, I don't want lumpy boobs.
Yeah.
I want boobs, just not lumpy ones.
Yeah, it's okay. Just give me the flat little pancakes. It's fine.
So how soon after you had your implants taken out did you start feeling better?
Immediately.
Wow.
Immediately. So I sent you a picture
Yeah.
when I was done with surgery, and I of course was super loopy that day, and they took me home, and I slept the majority of that day, and I woke up the next day. I had a team of girlfriends who I can't thank enough. They slept in the bed with me so my husband could sleep upstairs and continue to keep our life moving forward while they cared for me those first 12 or 13 days. Because really it wasn't the explant, it was the tummy tuck and muscle repair that
Right.
was the real
Yeah.
tail, the real tail kicker. When Kai repaired those muscles, she cinched them in real tight, which
Oh,
meant
She got to go. We might have to talk.
but I remember the next day saying to my girlfriend Jamie, who was staying with me, I said, I feel like it's weird. And she kept going, what? And I'm like, I mean, I know I'm on pain meds, but I said, it feels like I'm looking out a window that I didn't know was dirty that's now been cleaned. Like the brain fog cleared within 24 hours. And I was still on some pretty heavy pain meds. So of course everyone was like, oh yeah, you're cute. You're probably on all of the narcotics. But it was instantaneous.
That's amazing.
It really was. And I remember calling into Kai's office, and she has an amazing team of people that she works with, who I adore. And I remember saying to the receptionist, I didn't know, I didn't even know I had brain fog. Like I didn't understand it until I didn't have it anymore. And she's like, okay, well, great. I'll pass that on to Kai.
You're like, I got my life back.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
it was immediate. But one of the things, and I'm okay if you tell the story as long as you're okay with telling it, is that the 16 years of having those implants in and having scleroderma, my version of scleroderma, systemic sclerosis version of scleroderma, doesn't really go after like the skin, the overproduction of collagen of the skin, which sometimes if you Google scleroderma, you'll see people that like they get the claw hands because their skin gets so tight. That was not the version that I had. But it was attacking my insides. And so I'll never forget, do you want to tell the story of my fat? About it ripping because it was so fibrous?
Oh, yeah, it was really bizarre. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
No, it just had like a weird consistency. It wasn't like normal fat. It was just, I can't even say, I don't even know that I have words to describe it. Like, I don't want to say woody because it wasn't firm. It was just fibrousy. And
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
Well, that's the scleroderma at work inside.
Okay.
So it was a, like I almost, because I didn't know that at the time. And when I had my first follow-up with Kai and she told that story, plus she told the story to a couple of her staff members who was like, yeah, Kai was telling us about your fat. I was like, oh, but she could almost like rip it. And I was like, oh, I wish someone would have saved that or videoed it because it was like proof, that this was in my body doing damage that, on the outside I looked fairly healthy except for when I had a blistering rash that you could see. But the inside of my body was just being destroyed.
And that's how you felt.
Yes, and that's how I felt.
Oh,
I felt like beef jerky. And then she confirmed that
I will probably never eat beef jerky again. I'm so glad you're good. But, Kai, I love the fact that you get it. You get women. You took that extra step to really learn about breast implant illness. So I want to talk a little bit about that. What got you to that point where you were like, this is something? You still do breast implants.
oh, yeah.
But you also do the explants.
Yep.
So talk about that. And then also, what made you go, this is a problem and I need to help these women?
And I would say, thinking back, my first breast implant patient was probably back in 2008, before it was even a named thing. And she had rashes. She had chronic rashes. She had seen 3 different dermatologists. They had no answers for her. They couldn't treat her. And she came to me and she said, I think they're my implants. And I said, well, I've never heard of that. I'm not saying I don't believe you, but why don't we get a sample of your implant from the implant company, send it to an allergist, and have them do a skin test on. And so we did it. She thought, oh, that's brilliant. And of course, she tested negative, like most women do with all these tests. And she said, I know it's negative, but I know that the implants are what's causing it. And I think she was my first one without even, this is years before. And then it really ramped up probably maybe around 2018, 2019. I remember my first patient, she came in and she had a list of symptoms and she said, I'm feeling all these things. And she said, first of all, I want to know if you believe me. I said, yeah, I have no reason not to believe you. And she said, I want you to take out my implants because I think my implants are making me sick. And I want you to take out the capsules and I want you to do pathology and I want you to do like a lot of things. And she said, can you do that? I said, I'll do it for you, but you need to make me a punch list because it's not something I normally do. And I'll do all these things you ask. And then she got better almost immediately. And now it's just routine. I just got these things memorized and we do it. And I've had, I want to guess somewhere, might be close to 1,500 patients that have had.
That's a high number.
That's very high.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing the punch list because I found that, so say if somebody had, 20 symptoms and rashes, if 15 symptoms went away, but they still had rashes, they were like, it didn't work. They'd be focused on the fact that the rash was still there. And I'd be like having to search my brain, like, well, what about that knee pain or, all those allergies? And I'm like, oh yeah, those went away. And so I started keeping a list just because it's fun to have them come back at about 3-4 months after surgery and see, like, I have them go over the same list and see what are still symptoms. And sometimes people find symptoms that they didn't even know they had, like, with
Yeah,
your brain fog.
Yep,
Or I've
totally.
had people with like a ringing in their ear that goes away, or like a choking feeling that they didn't, they just thought that was normal that they clear their throat all the time. But, and I don't know why any of these symptoms occur, but it's like similar cluster of things in these women. But I just love, I tell people, yeah, I love doing the surgery. I mean, I'm a surgeon. But I also love watching people get better. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like even cooler.
I was thinking that as you were saying, I have them do the same checklist and just to see how many symptoms now they're without. And that's got
Mhm.
to just be so gratifying.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, so gratifying. How many women do you think are actually walking around with breast illness, implant illness, and don't even know it?
Oh, I bet there's a lot.
A lot.
Just because I think you have to get to that point because they're so easy to rationalize things away, you know? Um,
Yeah.
they just, sports injuries, menopause.
Well, and I have women. So since I've gone through this journey and shared my story, my story has inspired a lot of women. I would say probably close to 300 that around the country have gone and gotten their implants out, not just because of me, but because there's this whole movement around
Right.
it. And I have friends who have them in and they have symptoms, but the symptoms aren't enough for them to go get them out. And I think that's an important point to make. Like, this is your body, right? So, if you are thinking about having them put in, just be educated and find a surgeon that believes you that you could go back to, if if you were one of the unlucky ones. And if you are someone with implants and you're like, well, I have a few of those symptoms, but
It's not bad enough for me to do anything
Yeah.
about it.
then no judgment. I wish I could have kept them in. I mean, I cried the first time after surgery, seeing my new body. I was thrilled with my flat stomach. Maybe not so thrilled with my flat chest, but I felt so good. I just felt
and
healthy.
That is everything. So, I'm going to take a second and say thank you to everybody who's watching on Chord right now. And I want to invite you to ask any questions because, these two ladies right here are going to be able to help you out. If you've got any kind of the symptoms that we're talking about right now, if you've had questions, if you've got breast implants and you've got concerns or worries, you've got two people here who are willing to listen and willing to answer. So please fire away, and then Quinn will get those questions over to us. As far as like Kai doing because you do still do the breast implant surgeries,
Right.
but you
Yes.
just make sure women are very informed before this happens.
Right. Yeah, we always have a conversation about,
Yeah.
possible risks. And I always include, that there's a small number of women who their bodies just don't like breast implants, and we do have, I follow up with my patients, 18 months, 2 years after their augmentations. And I always just say, we keep an eye on them. And if they start acting a little weird, we might, mention, you know, I don't know. I think it's important just to, have that seed in the back of your head so that if you do start feeling weird after surgery, um,
Yeah.
And I just invite people to come back and we'll talk about it.
Do you think that there are some women who are more susceptible to having those reactions to implants?
I really haven't noticed any like
Yeah.
trend because I've been here for, well, this year will be 21 years, and I've done augmentations since day one, and I've only had 8 of my own patients come back with implant illness, and I would think the number would be a lot higher. One, I don't have any magic tricks up my sleeve,
Right.
but I'm in the same area. I think I'm pretty approachable, you know, and if it's out there on social media and I get listed as an explant surgeon and somebody, I would think that they would come back. So 8 out of all those patients, and I would just tell people, I think that's, closer to how many women have it, whatever that percentage might be.
Mhm. And I think it's an education piece too, because in my story, at about the 6-year mark of having them in and really starting to get sick, my sister-in-law had gone down a rabbit hole. It's very easy to go down the breast implant illness rabbit hole. And she said, Julie, this is you. And I thought, there is no way my colon acting up has anything to do with my breast implants. Like, come on, like this is conspiracy theory stuff. So for me, in talking to women, I think that it's hard because it's a financial undertaking to get them out. Like you have to make the commitment, and then your body isn't the same when you get them out, when you've had them in for all those years.
Right.
So I was in denial from the time my sister-in-law first brought it up to me until it almost took 6 or 7 years later that I was like, okay, now I believe her, and now I need to do my own research. And then of course I watched that documentary. So I think there are more women out there, but it is a commitment to get them out. I mean, it's a big
It really
commitment.
is, because you make the commitment, the financial commitment to get them put in.
Yeah.
And then you make another financial commitment to have them taken out. And it's kind of where you're at with your own body as
Yes.
to how important that financial commitment is.
The
Yeah.
other thing too is I have to always tell people there's no guarantee that you're going to feel better
Yeah.
if I do this, and because there's no testing to show
Yeah.
that your implants cause it in the first place.
Yep.
But then I also say, there's no guarantee, but if you don't feel better, you're going to be the first one, because
Yeah.
women just know, and I just say when you know that your implants are making you sick, and it's way more than just saying, I got my implants out and I feel better. Like it's rashes that go away. It's being able to eat foods that you weren't able to eat before, your hair growing back, swelling going down so you can wear jewelry again. Like, I mean, it's so much more. The brain fog going away.
Yeah. And for some women it's almost instantaneous, and for other women it takes a month, 2 months to realize, oh, that's right, I'm not experiencing that anymore.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have quite a few friends who have them in and have symptoms, but it's not ruining their life like it ruined mine. So they're choosing to leave them in, and that's great. I mean, there's no judgment.
I feel like it would be a scary conversation because, again, in your own head, I know for myself, and it sounds like you as well, these symptoms could be anything.
Yeah.
So you start to do this bargaining thing. It's like, well, it could be this, and it'll probably go away if I just change the way I eat, or if I do this supplement, or if I do this exercise, or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
then, I must be doing something wrong. I can't be here. So it's kind of a bargaining thing, I would imagine.
Well, and especially because there aren't doctors who can give a test for it, and they can't give a guarantee. Kai was very honest with me, where she said, I have had women get them out and they have felt better, but I can't promise you that. Like, I can promise you your surgical results, because she's a very skilled surgeon, but she couldn't promise me my health back. But I was so desperate that it didn't matter at that point. And so many of the women that I've talked to, they get to that point where they're just so desperate that it doesn't matter. They're going to roll the dice. I said that getting my implants out was my Hail Mary.
And actually, I'm going to tell this story. I did ask my daughter if it was okay because she had breast implants as well. And then Kai actually took hers out right there in the office. And I got to be there for that. It was fascinating and so fast. And I was like, whoa, you're done. But kind of the same thing. She started to get, she wasn't feeling well. And then she got that fear because we lost my stepdaughter to cancer not long before that. And so there was a lot of, that mental game going on. I don't want to get sick. I don't feel well. I want to get these out. But she did the bargaining thing where it was like, well, I just got them in. I really like them, but I don't want this. And so she had to weigh what was, more important for her.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot you were there.
I was there. I was there for all of that. I am mom of the year for that one.
Yeah, you are.
I am not going to lie. I was a little queasy at one point, but we made it happen. So, let's see. Oh, we do have some questions. Okay, let me get those in here really quick. Thank you so much. Quinn over here. Connie wants to know, are there any reasons you wouldn't perform the surgery for, like weight, health, etc.? That's a good question, Connie.
As far as weight, you mean as far as
It sounds like, just any reasons you wouldn't perform the surgery. I'm assuming, Connie, that you're taking the implants out.
Yeah, I mean, we do, all my surgeries are done outpatient. So it's not in a hospital setting. And so we want to make sure everyone's safe. And so we do have some like BMI criteria that we have to adhere to. So for heavier patients, it's safer to do in a hospital setting. And I'm not currently doing things in a hospital. So we do have weight requirements in that sense, but
so it really is just good to come in and get a consultation and find out what's best for you and your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say just come in and talk about it. And sometimes, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to make a judgment on weight without like seeing the person or talking to them, because sometimes there's things that we can do to help with your weight, to get you to a point where you are safe to do the surgery on.
That's a really good question, Connie. So I would say, again, consultation, probably your best bet. Ava also says, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
It is an important story. Is there anything that we can leave with our viewers? Important notes that you would like to pass along just with your own journey? And then Kai, as a doctor, what you would recommend for somebody who's like doing the battle in their head?
I would say just, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation, and I'm happy to talk with anyone who is thinking they might, I've had patients just come in to talk about their implants thinking they need to, switch them out every, so many years just because that's what they were told. And
is it 10 years? I think I read somewhere that it was every 10 years.
The implant companies would like women to switch them out every 10 years. There's another, but I mean,
get where you're going there.
It's kind of like the iPhone, right?
Yep.
There's another company that their implants are 20 years. So they're just kind of vary.
And they have come a long way in breast implants themselves.
Yeah, and there's even just, 2 months ago, we just got FDA approval for a new implant.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. I think the thing that was shocking to me about my journey was, and it's a picture that I had sent to Leslie. I didn't know, because obviously I was out, that I was going to get to take my implants home with me. And so...
Oh, yeah, your picture,
yeah.
Yes.
So I was shocked when my husband and my girlfriend were like, hey, we have a little something for you. And they had put them in almost a soup-to-go cup. And it's the best way I could describe it. So I opened it up thinking, oh, they got me soup. And there were my implants. And I was thrilled. But one of the reasons why I was thrilled to have them was that a lot of women, their saline implants will get pulled out and there's mold on the inside or they've leaked a ton. And I'm here to say that mine looked pretty near perfect. Mm-hmm. There wasn't mold on the inside. So it wasn't that I had this extreme. My implants looked great. when they were
Yeah.
coming out.
Most of them do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I really think that being your own healthcare advocate and believing in yourself, but being mindful of what you're experiencing.
I think that's such good advice for all of us. Really be mindful of your own health. Listen to your body. If
Yeah.
something doesn't seem right, keep going until you get the answers that you
Exactly.
need and you find the person that listens to you.
Yes.
So, okay, I want to end with this.
Okay.
Let's talk about that shirt. Hello, beautiful. What's the story behind that? That's so
yes.
cute.
So after my surgery, because you don't feel so feminine, afterwards. And of course, and Kai promised it would happen, and it did, that, as my skin kind of rebounded, it rebounded. But I just didn't feel feminine. I mean, even to this day, I'm knocking on the door of 50, and you do measure yourself against other people. So a girlfriend of mine found this after my surgery and gave it to me just as a self-reminder, that really beauty does come from within. And when you're healthy, you're beautiful. So that to me has really stuck with me, that me being healthy makes me beautiful. And that's, what I'm clinging to, that and padded bras.
And that is a beautiful thing. And you are both incredibly beautiful. And I think it's just, taking that individuality. I want to thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you
being
for
here.
having us.
Such
Thank
a, I
you.
mean, such an important conversation to have. I want to say thank you to Ava and Connie for checking in. If you've got any questions moving forward, let me know. And then, are you good if I post those pictures on Chord?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a part of the journey, and you can see the shock and awe on my face when I'm holding my
They're
implants
great
for
pictures.
the first time.
They're great pictures. Anyway, ladies, thank you so much for that. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on Chord. Go make the rest of your days the best of your days. And you know what, ladies, I'm going to have you sign my wall. So have a
Yay.
good day, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.